Today, we are ranking motorcycle mods based on their usefulness. Now, this is a popular topic in motorcycling. People love to change stuff on their motorcycles. But Logan, what defines a modification?
For a motorcycle modification, I like to think about it like you're actually changing or replacing a specific part, as opposed to, bolting on or attaching an accessory like luggage or a phone mount or something like that.
Yeah, that's a good way of describing it. So in today's video, we're gonna be ranking them based on the usefulness, what you should be doing, what you shouldn't be doing, but there's a twist because life exists on a spectrum, as many of the AmyNoob audience knows. We're gonna give you good examples and bad examples of each category of modification. But let's start off with what we think is the least useful mod, and that is gas caps. Logan, gas caps are one that I see a lot. People love to do the carbon fiber ones, the quick turn-off ones. This mod, I think, basically has no reason to exist other than the very occasional use of a track bike that you don't want to deal with a key, because you are opening yourself up to, I think, some liability by having a gas cap that can just be easily opened, right? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, for one, I think gas theft, gas vandalization is huge problem right now in the United States, and I am not willing to risk it, no matter how attractive that emblazoned skull gas cap is for my Harley Davidson. I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah, I think there's like the AutoZone adjacent mods like that, like the chintzy skull gas cap, but there's also like the ultra high-end carbon
100%.
fiber, Rizoma, crazy, etched aluminum laser, whatever the hell. And I just think like this borders on just like useless farkle.
100%.
And we talked about this before we started filming, that this exists in a broad category of useless farkles: carbon fiber front fenders, carbon fiber gas cap, tank accessories, like just all that random crap that just exists to like beautify the motorcycle that really has no purpose. Because I think a modification should do something that improves the bike.
Sure.
Right? And we're going to see in the later categories in this video, like this stuff is going to improve the bike meaningfully, but we think the gas cap, it doesn't really improve anything, right?
I think the idea is, your gas cap, something you're gonna see every time you ride, and I think someone's like, if I'm gonna change something, I want it to be something that I can see,
Yeah, so the bad version is what, the AutoZone?
The bad version, essentially any gas cap modification is a bad version unless it has a specific function like a track bike, or you had to rekey your bike because someone tried to steal it, and so you've got to change the ignition and then match the... But other than that, gas cap for the sake of changing the gas cap is very silly.
Yeah, so I would agree. I think the good version of this is for a track bike. My Daytona actually has a gas cap that you just spin off, and that's because many years ago I crashed it while the key was in it, and then the key got bent, and so I went keyless, so the whole bike can be operated without a key at all, which is great because no one's ever gonna steal it. It lives in a garage, it goes to the track, it comes back, that's good. So gas cap, that's where we're at. Let's move on to the next mod.
All right, slightly more useful than a gas cap. We're coming in at number 7, windscreens.
Windscreens.
There's a huge window spectrum between a good windscreen modification and a bad windscreen modification. What would you think is a good reason to modify your windscreen?
I think if you have a bike that is, let's say, designed for long distance commuting and touring, and you find the buffeting from the wind to just be kind of poor, you can go up or down in windscreen size and really add a lot of comfort to your ride. And this is one that I see very often that people want to do. And I think that there's great reasons to do that. But what would you say is a bad version?
I mean, for
of the windscreen mod, Logan?
A bad version of the windscreen mod, similar to the gas cap, is fashion windscreens. You don't need to be modifying your windscreen to change the way it looks, right? Like it's a tool.
Yes, it's designed to do something.
And the worst offender is, the ultra smoked windscreen. At that point, you're completely mitigating the usefulness of your windscreen. Sure, it still blocks the wind, but you can't see through it. And if you're going 180 miles an hour with a tinted visor, smoked windscreen, full tuck, you're flying blind, man. Good luck. Sayonara.
Yeah, I've never, and someone drop me a comment, please let me know, what is the reason for getting a completely blacked out or smoked windshield? Because in theory, if you own a squid missile, a piss missile bike, let's say, you're gonna be going full tuck. You wanna go fast. Like, once you go full tuck on those, you can't see anything anymore. So someone explain to me, what is the point other than aesthetic? Because that's fine, if you wanna just completely black it out for aesthetic, that's great. But yeah, then you can't go full tuck and see through it. I just think that's a bit crazy.
Yeah, it's just got like emo squid bike. Like, I don't care if I see, because I don't know if I'm making it home tonight anyway.
It's a very silly reason to do that. But windscreens can be a great modification. Like we said, we can make more comfort out of them. You can add a different shape to them. On sport bikes too, you can get the taller bubble ones, gives it a more racy aesthetic, all that cool stuff. And it's a good mod to do if you're looking for that, but I think the gains are pretty marginal, right? Like you're not gonna see massive gains from a windscreen. I don't think it's that important.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that's kind of like some, nitty gritty motorcycle ownership stuff is if you have, a sport touring bike or an adventure bike, there is kind of a weird thing where it's like sometimes a shorter windscreen causes less buffeting.
Yes.
And some versus a taller one. So it is sort of this depends on the bike, depends on the rider.
Yeah.
And you have to kind of know what you're getting into. But for certain purposes, I could definitely see the merit of a windscreen fundamentally improving your ride.
Yeah, I think for me as well, sometimes the windscreen is so big, especially here in Austin where it gets really hot. If you have no airflow, I think that's worse sometimes than just having like the lower one that you actually get some airflow. So yeah, windscreen, very important. Moving on. Next up is one that we had a little bit of a contentious issue with as we tried to rank it, and that is mirrors. Finding their way as 6th on our list today. You would imagine mirrors to be pretty important, Logan, right? You need to be able to see with them, right? Most people use them on the day-to-day. But the thing is, when people do mirror modifications, usually they make it worse, I would say. Usually they stylistically change it so that they get the little tiny bar end mirrors, the upside down ones, or God forbid, the Rizoma stealth folding crazy mirrors that cost a fortune and you just see less out of. So I think a lot of the times people modify mirrors, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. Some bikes, the existing mirrors suck and they're vibrational and you can't really see anything. But also, have you ever tried just turning your head? You could do that too. What do you think about mirrors?
Yeah, again, I think the sort of through line so far is fashion modifications are typically ill-advised. And of course, everybody likes their bike to look a certain way, look maybe a little bit different than their buddies, but the fashion mirrors thing typically compromise the usability and functionality of a mirror, in which case it's probably not a very useful modification. Yeah, if your bike's mirrors suck, or maybe, you tip the bike over into cracks, or you want the breakaway like ADV ones or whatever the hell those are called.
Those
double
are
take,
useful.
double take
Double
mirrors,
takes, yeah. Those are useful, I would say. But get good, stop dropping your motorcycle, stop crashing it, then you won't have to need those.
100%.
Just saying. So what's the bad version of this mod?
Rizoma. No, worse is China's.
Let's right out to get the nice ones are the worst.
Yeah, because it's ridiculous.
So I think like the really chintzy, like tiny Chinese ones that are like super concave or convex, I don't remember the word for it right now, where like it looks like a fisheye lens that's about this big.
Yeah, and that's the second bad version.
Yeah, but the people put them like right near the handlebars and like you have to like do one of these to like look through your armpit, and you're like, what the hell is even that? I think that's like the bad version of these for sure.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
But I think that,
the super expensive ones too.
It's so flashy and unnecessary. It's like, at this point, just like don't run mirrors. Yeah, be a grown up, right?
Yeah, there is that too where I think like mirrors are important because you need to see, right? And it is nice for traffic, but like, if you're trying to be like a badass motorcyclist, like I go super fast or whatever, like no mirrors, just do that.
Yeah, put them on, get your bike inspected, take them off. Come on, we're bad boys, we're motorcyclists.
You're a bad boy. But then I think the good version of this mod is perhaps those double takes or the OEM plus kind of mirrors that are like maybe more rubber mounted or don't vibrate as much, or you see more out of. But honestly, the manufacturers, I know you guys don't believe us when we say this, they did put some thought when they made the motorcycle, and typically I find OEM mirrors to be like just fine. I think that you just have to point them in the right way and then they work great. Like I've seldom had the need to like want to change my mirrors.
And a lot of times too, like the mirrors have built-in turn signals on some bikes, so it's like you delete the mirrors or change the mirrors, then you got to figure out the turn signal situation, or then one thing leads to another, and you're removing your tail lights, and you got a track bike, and
less functional for sure. Moving on.
So when we're working through our ranking today, we're talking about functionality, usefulness, and something that stuck out to me is modifying like a physical touch point of the bike, like that you're directly engaging with every time you ride, I think adds definitely some usefulness. So this next one, it's also going to be polarizing though, just wait. Levers.
Levers.
So I felt it levers should rank higher than mirrors because you're physically touching and interacting with levers every time you ride, right? That has to provide some value, right?
I think so, yeah. And it's like, I think levers are one of those things that are so rider specific because our hands are all different sizes, our preferences are all different. You know, I really like the more OEM spec, like the thinner ones that are rounded. I feel like they just curl over my fingers a little bit better. And since I ride on the track a lot, you know, I like having that finesse and that control over the actual brake lever. But I know some people like the chunkier ones, the shorter ones. So I think, yeah, it's like, it's so important for both brake feel and then clutch feel, you know, unless you have a really fancy bike, got quick shifters, E-clutchers or whatever. Most of us are working the clutch, right? So like you said, it's a touch point that you do all the time. And they're not that expensive to get the right ones you want dialed in. But what's like a bad version of levers?
Fashion levers, anodized shorty levers from
China.
From China.
Yeah, that's, I was gonna say the exact same thing. The ultra short little stumpy. And I wanna make a small point in this video. Let's apply the simple laws of physics, right? A longer lever yields more torque at the end of it, right? If you have a longer lever, that gives you more modularity of control. You can actually feel more of the pressure. A tiny short little lever, I mean, just try this at home, right? Go close your door, try to close it close to the hinge or far away from the hinge. What's easier? What's better, right? Like, I don't understand, the short lever thing I never understood.
Simple machines.
Simple machines, right? I think the only time that those are acceptable are if you are a stunt boy and you've got the short little clutch lever because you're just springing that bad boy and you're just trying to pop up a wheelie. Then I think it's acceptable, do whatever you gotta do. And I really think stunt mods kind of live permanently in like the mid 2000s. Have you ever seen like the graphics and like those websites? I guess I remember this because I did the Grom wheelie stuff.
Yeah.
Everything I ordered from had like urban youth graffiti on it, you know? I was like, that's kind of fun that they're all like coded in that way. I would say the good version of levers are if you snapped a pair because you dropped it and you replace it with like, you know, really high quality ASV levers or like an OEM Plus lever or like something just really, really nice. And also we must say, if you're gonna go that whole hog, maybe you do like a brake master cylinder swap.
While you're at it,
technically a lever, right? But you're increasing the functionality of the bike. You have more, you know, pressure over the lever, all that good stuff. So something to think about.
Yeah.
All right, fourth place, just missing out from the podium is one that I think might be one of the more expensive items on the list today and can make a big difference, but I think it needs to be thought about very judiciously. It is rear sets. Now, rear sets, if you don't know, are the entire assembly upon which your foot rests. It can be the peg, the bracket, the shifter, like all of that stuff is involved in the rear set, and it is very important for control of the bike, similar to the levers, right? Where you are activating the rear brake, the shifter, you're always touching and moving that stuff. And for some bikes, you know, the rear sets might be just like a little too low, a little too high. They're causing like issues with your ergonomic fit on the bike. But ultimately, I mean, I've ridden hundreds of motorcycles. I have very rarely found that I needed a dramatic change in the peg position. Honestly, if I thought this, I'd be like, I just need a different bike. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's easy for us, you know, in this sort of peak male Adonis archetype of, you know, 5'11", 165 pounds. Of course, every bike feels amazing for us.
Yeah.
But no, I think for me, I come from a more casual motorcycle. Like I ride for leisure, right, versus sport. So for me, yeah, my mind goes, the difference, barring extreme circumstances, if you absolutely love a certain motorcycle, but you're a certain size individual, barring that, I think the difference in experience or performance you get from rear sets is gonna be so small, it seems limited to like a track bike thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny, like we're going through this and a lot of these just start very quickly deviating to like performance and track oriented stuff. Like rear sets are very important for track days because you want the high quality ones where you can swap out the peg if you know, low side it, you can like really fine tune, adjust the position. Like the Attack rear sets, it's like a grid of just like a bunch of holes that you can just perfectly find where you need to have your feet. But for the street, that's ridiculous. Like you don't need the extra ground clearance. Like how much more do you really need to lean over on the street? Like I'm scraping pegs. I'm like, well, that's kind of crazy, right? Like, although some bikes, again, it goes back to like, you should probably just get a different bike. If you're riding like a Royal Enfield and you're scraping pegs, sure, that's pretty easy to do on the street. But if you're riding so aggressively, just get a sport bike. Get something with higher pegs. We were talking about the bad version of this. Do you remember the one you brought
so
up?
the bad version, you know, it's maybe not 100% rear sets, right? But it's like the aftermarket cruiser type, like highway pegs or like
pegs.
mini floorboards and things like that.
Yeah.
There's worse things you could do to your motorcycle, but it's kind of just like, why? What I mean?
It's definitely a strange one. I would say the good version is, again, if you have a track bike, you need to dial it in. But be prepared for some sticker shock because very high quality rear sets can easily run $600+. This is not a cheap part to get. These are typically like one piece aluminum, like, billet, machined to be a certain way. So that's definitely something you want to keep in mind. I will say I almost got highway pegs one time. I did a big ride on my Scrambler, on my Ducati Scrambler, all the way to Big Bend and back. And there were times where I was like, I would like to have my feet kind of more up. I don't recommend this, but I found a way to like basically put my feet above the handlebars while I was riding because my legs were getting so sore. So I was literally like, I was like OBGYN, just like my legs up like this and my hands beneath me. I looked very strange, but I was very comfortable.
I was gonna say, the stunt boys call that a high chair.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I was doing a high chair rolling down the road. I don't recommend it, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do when you're doing those long stints. Where's my iron butt bros at? Come on, you've probably done some even weirder stuff than that. They got catheters in, they've got, like, all kinds of stuff. So it's not the worst thing in the world. So rear sets, just missing out. Pretty good, but kind of specific. Let's move on to podium places. I'm super excited to share the recent winner of our latest sweepstakes. Braden in Houston actually won the Honda Hornet 750, and I was able to deliver it to him in person. Check it out. Yeah, well, congratulations. I'm really excited for you on this bike. Delivered here in the Houston area. You said you're heading off to the Marines, though, right? So you may not keep the bike?
Yeah, maybe not. Probably not.
Okay, probably.
June or July, I'm going to leave, I believe.
Yeah, well, at least it'll be here in a good home. And, well, if you see it come up for sale, maybe you pick it up from Braden over here. But hopefully you get a chance to ride a little bit, have some fun, and big congrats to Braden over here. So big congrats to Braden on winning the Hornet 750. If you want to win this Moto Guzzi, head over to yamanoob.co and become a member for your best chance to win. You'll get access to our Discord server and automatic entries to win this motorcycle. Click that link and don't miss it.
So for this next one, we had a little bit of back and forth. Things were getting a little heated in the pre-production meeting room for this one. And it is none other than the controversial Tail Tidy.
Now, Logan, you've talked so much about fashion and vanity,
I know.
and you were the one that said, you're like, I have to get my tail tidy because like it looks like otherwise. So
yeah, this is the point in the video where Logan puts his foot in his mouth. So yes, fashion levers, fashion mirrors, I'm like, that's unnecessary. But a tail tidy, for me, I cannot stomach the look of a motorcycle with that terrible plasticky tail fender piece. It's distasteful to me. It fills me with rage and anger and depression, and I never want to look at the motorcycle until it's fixed.
I completely agree. I think it's like some bikes, the tails are so ridiculously big, especially Japanese bikes or some of the core fenders of this. Because I've noticed fenders. You look at that. I think the Italian motorcycles, I think they figured out that part of the design, part of the vibe, they just incorporate it a little more tastefully. I don't know why the Japanese bikes just have them stuck out so far out. But I think a very large contingency of the audience will agree with you very vehemently. Because I see this comment, they're like, we have a totally stock giveaway bike, and they go, that fender's disgusting. You gotta get rid of it, I think it just irks people. I don't have that much of an issue with it, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not as bad as you. I don't think it's that heinous. Like my Touareg has the stock fender on it, I don't really care. But again, it's not that bad.
It's not that bad. It's not that bad. And I will say you can definitely go too far, right? Like the license plate, just straight up license plate bracket delete is too far. Having your license plate zip tied underneath your tire is insane and likely illegal, and you're gonna get pulled over a million times, like our friend Matthew Woods over there in Ohio.
Oh, come on, again? It's every week with him. Come on, we got to lighten up on thought taking over here. Come on, he's a good boy. He's doing the best he can.
You gotta comply with local state vehicle registration laws, though. Otherwise, you're gonna get pulled over a million times. That's all I'm saying.
It's true, and I can speak from experience with this because I was once a Matthew Woods in my young days, and my Daytona used to have one of those like super squid like
magnetic
plate.
Flip up.
It wasn't magnetic. My plate was like fully tucked in the bottom of like my wheel, basically. And I had it folded. You couldn't see it basically at any angle. I don't do what I did. That was really stupid. Don't live that life. And I never got pulled over for it, but I did things that I can't talk about on camera with it. Let's just put it that way. So lived a fun life with it. Happy to tell the tales. So yeah, tail tidies. I think most people do them. Most people go after them. Most people do them. And I think you can also get the benefit sometimes too, or like if you have a bike that has those really nasty, like big incandescent bulbs, you can go LED lights, you can get the relay, you can get it all like, you know, synced up correctly.
Tidied up.
Tidied up,
It's in the name.
The only downside is it can reduce functionality in some bikes where you'll get a lot of spray and it's not the, you know, the water's gonna get everywhere. But on a lot of bikes, it doesn't even make that much of a difference anyways. And the aesthetic gains are really, really good. So yeah, go with a reputable brand, go Yoshimura, go New Rage Cycles, one of those good looking ones. And I think that's the correct way to do it. But yeah, like Logan said, just chopping it off, zip tying it on there, that's not the right way to do it for sure. Yeah. All right, second place, penultimate modification, the one that I think nearly everybody does. I think this might even be most people's top mod, but we'll explain why we picked number one to be number one, but let's talk about this one first. It is, of course, the exhaust on your motorcycle. Super important, big deal. Most people want to hear their bikes. All these bikes coming out nowadays are corked up to death. Logan, exhausts, what do you think?
I mean, I like a good sounding exhaust, but I also recognize the fact that sometimes it's just too much, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Even the best, you know, kind of modest, tasteful exhaust can make your bike quite a bit louder, especially if you opt out to remove the DB killer. And for me, like, I'm a conscientious neighbor. You know, I live in an urban area and I commute to work early in the morning sometimes, and I don't want to be, you know, brutal cold start, wide open, rev bombing my motorcycle with an aftermarket exhaust at early hours in the morning. But that being said, I have another motorcycle that I ride on the weekends and the afternoons that is very loud and sounds really good.
Yeah, I think it depends, where you live, where you want to do with the bike. Some bikes, I believe, just like deserve to be heard.
Sure.
You know, like we have the next giveaway bike is an Aprilia 210 V4. It's coming out very soon. One of the first things I did with that bike, I rode it for like 100 miles with the stock exhaust, and I said, this is a crime against humanity. This is a crime to not hear this V4. This is the greatest sounding motorcycle ever. I have to hear this thing, so I put an exhaust on it. Other bikes like my Touareg, I've left it stock. It's got a nice intake sound. I enjoy it. It's fine. But I think this is such a wide array, like you said, of what you can do with an exhaust. Like you can do a tasteful SC project with a DB killer and it's nice, or you can go like full eBay pipes and straight pipe your Ninja 500 and everybody hates you, and that's not a cool thing to, and you shouldn't do that, right?
Yeah, certain bikes definitely warrant it and benefit from it, you know. Certain bikes, stock is all you need. I firsthand saw a Rebel 500, I think, just muffler straight cut off, and it sounded so bad and embarrassing. I was like embarrassed for this person.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you think this sounds good? It sounds so bad.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, like, you know, most motorcyclists will appreciate a beautiful exhaust note. Like there's been times where I'm driving, you know, with my lady, and then, you know, I remember the other day, like an RSV4 passed by and I was like, oh, that sounds so good, you know? And she's like, oh, it's just so noisy. Most people think bikes are just noisy. They don't have the thing that we have where like we can appreciate the sound. But like Logan said, even for us, sometimes, like I hear like a Grom with like the pipe cut and it has that little like bubbly sound. You're like, what are we doing? Like, don't do that. So keep it tasteful. Keep it, you know, most systems leave the DB killer in. You're probably gonna have a better time. Do a slip-on instead. Maybe don't go full system. But, you know, if you have a track bike, make that thing as loud as well. My Daytona is heinously loud. But on the track, who cares?
Yeah, I think when it comes, if you use your motorcycle for like utility and you're living with it every day, definitely erring on the side of either stock or quiet aftermarket is your best bet. But then you can have that secondary bike, whether a track bike or a fun weekend bike that's just full D-Gen mode.
Yes.
As long as it's still tasteful. Loud but tasteful, not loud and bad, like a 180-degree parallel twin Ninja 500, Rebel 500, bull crap.
Yeah, don't do that. V4s, put an exhaust on those bad boys. So, first place mods. Let's find out what it is. So what's the most useful, Logan? Pound for pound, what's the greatest mod that someone can do?
The greatest mod someone can do, you know, we took a lot of time, thought this through, weighed the odds, we landed on ECU Flash.
ECU Flash. In 2026, especially, I think, is the best one. What do you think?
So yeah, an ECU Flash is one of those things you're gonna experience every single time you turn the key in on your bike. You know, it's working quietly behind the scenes, altering those fuel tables to make sure your bike is running as perfectly as possible. A lot of people who haven't experienced a Flash ECU don't realize is really what an improvement it makes over stock. You might think, oh, my bike is stock and runs perfectly fine. Get that ECU flashed, and it's like a night and day difference.
Yeah, it makes a massive difference. Like you think about, you know, the new Japanese bikes, ZX4, R9, they all have these dead spots in second gear because of the regulations. I mean, they're borderline unrideable without an ECU Flash. So a lot of these bikes, it kind of has to be your first mod, right? And it's a very simple procedure. I think some of these mods are actually much harder to do than ECUs, right? Like depending on the bike, you just pop it out, ship it off, it comes back, you pop it in, and the bike magically feels a whole heck of a lot nicer to ride. And then if you were to kind of go down this progression, you know, you do the ECU Flash, you tell them what exhaust you're gonna get, you get a nicer, more, you know, free-flowing pipe, an ECU Flash, and all of a sudden it literally feels like a brand new bike and it's gonna run so nice. But there are some drawbacks, some risks, some changes that you may not want to do. We were talking about this pre-production, you know, before ECU Flashes were as common as they are. You know, I remember the days of piggyback ECUs and downloading air-to-fuel tables from some random forum and praying to God that they work on your bike, you know, like that's not what you want to do, right?
Yeah, I mean, luckily we're in 2026, it is really easy to flash your ECU, but there's definitely wrong ways to go about it. You know, some old timer will say, why spend $250 to have your ECU flash? Like, I got the cable, I got the old laptop, like, let's run it. Yeah, next thing you know, you're like trying to install porn GIFs onto your ECU, you brick the whole thing, and then you got to mail your ECU off anyway. So there's definitely wrong ways to go about it. The best way to go about it is pony up the cash and do it the right way.
Yeah, I've done it where I've had the laptop open, I have the thing plugged into the computer, I turn it on, I see the air-to-fuel table, and I'm just like, yes.
Yeah, right.
Yes, I know what I'm looking at. Yeah, I'm just like not qualified to mess around with the AFRs on my bike. So just do it the right way, you know, send it off to a reputable company, and you'll be amazed at the difference that your bike can have. But the other caveat is it will likely void your warranty. So if you have a much newer machine, you actually want to keep the warranty on it, we do recommend maybe not flashing. I think if you are, you know, buying 2-3 years used and you haven't had it flashed yet, like that's definitely the way to go. Go ahead and flash it. But I haven't heard any horror stories about like, you know, someone flashes their ECU and then like their warranty claim doesn't get covered. So
no, me either.
Yeah. Like the most clear example I can think of is actually on our own channel. In 2021, we had a Honda Fireblade and we flashed the ECU and we had the oil return line near the exhaust that blew. And, you know, we thought, I was like, oh shit, it's probably because the ECU flash because it's running hotter. So we, you know, took it to the dealer and they plugged it up and all that. And like, we didn't say anything about the ECU flash. We were just like, hey, the hose blew up, right? They never said anything about the fact that the ECU was like changed. And they certainly saw that it was changed. So I don't think it's as big of a deal as people make it out to be, personally.
I'd like to think it's like if you take your bike to the dealership after the ECU has been flashed and they plug it into like the diagnostic tool and just like Pepe the Frog shows up or something. You know what I mean?
A little
like,
skull and bones or something.
Like how do they know? Like obviously they can tell, but I just think it's funny to picture that happening.
You know, I don't even know if I don't know if they can tell or they can't tell. That's beyond my pay grade to know stuff like that. If you have any insights on that, leave a comment down below. But yeah, ECU Flash, I think, compared to everything else we've talked about today, it's gonna give you the biggest change, the best result for not much money. I mean, some levers will cost you more than $200, and an ECU Flash is going to dramatically change the bike.
Yeah, I think the biggest sacrifice for the ECU Flash is the time. Not that it's even that long, less than a week typically turnaround. But for me, like I only have it done on the Transalp. It's like because I need that. You know what I mean? I'm like I can't go a week waiting for it to come back in the mail. But
we'll give you one of the AMU bikes for a week.
Oh yeah, I guess we could do that.
Yeah, you could just keep the Transalp here, pop it out, because it would apparently you gain like 15 ponies. Like that's not nothing.
No, definitely. Maybe that's what we'll do. Spring.
That's what you'll do. Yeah. I can't promise you'll be able to use the V4 for that long, because maybe we'll have the Gucci by then. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But anyways, boys, that's our ranking for the modifications. Let us know what you think about where we had these sitting. Did you go for the smoked windscreen first before you did the ECU Flash? Shame on you. Or were you a patrician and thought about the ECU Flash first? Let us know in the comments down below. Thanks so much for checking out today's video. We appreciate it. We'll catch you in the next one. See you later. From your two favorite whiteboard boys in the whole motorcycling universe. You guys say you don't like these videos. I know you like them.